Welcome to Comics on a Pyre, a channel to have a meaningful conversation over movies, life, books, and shows, and maybe just a spot to spend time BSing over comics. If you like your entertainment with a bit of substance, then you, my vagabond friend, have come to the right tavern. Tether your horse by the post and come right on in and warm yourself by the fire. Tap that subscribe button, and for the next few minutes, my fellow George Carlin reprobate, lend me your ear. All my life, ever since I was a little boy and old enough to put a quarter in an arcade cabinet, I was a gamer. And in my younger years, I would practically live at the arcades and met a lot of my childhood friends that way. A few years after discovering video games, I discovered comics and was flabbergasted by the artwork and intricate stories. So when I eventually saw arcade games that were based off of comics, I was ecstatic, but still left with some trepidation. You see, in the 80s and the 90s, being a comic book fan was pretty much restricted to paperback medium, because the movies and video games that they were based on were embarrassing and hokey at best. Which leads me to this video. For the record, I am not saying that all these games are great. In fact, one or two of them I would rather avoid talking about. But since they justifiably fall under the banner of this video, I feel as though I should at least mention them. Which brings me to the rules of this list. First rule, the video game had to be released in the arcade, meaning it had to have a freestanding cabinet and been seen by gamers physically in arcades back in the day. Second rule, the arcade game had to be originally based off of a comic. No movies or cartoons that spawned a comic book series. No, for this list, the video game has to have had started as a comic book and then crossed over into other mediums. And third rule is that the game must be a beat 'em up, which is defined as a video game which pits a fighter or a group of fighters against many underpowered enemies. Gameplay usually spans many levels, with some levels ending with an enemy boss. The main form of players' attacks are kicks and punches, but various weapons can be picked up along the journey and can be used on his opponents, such as bats, pipes, throwing stars, and such. Now, I'm not saying that the game has to be all beat 'em up either. Some driving and flying stages are allowed, but there must be a stage or two where the character that you control falls within the definition of beat 'em up. Now, with all that said, let's begin. Number 1. Captain America and the Avengers is an arcade game developed and released by Data East back in 1991. It features the Marvel comic book characters, the Avengers, in a side-scrolling, brawling, and shooting adventure to defeat the evil Red Skull. The story is that the Red Skull has assembled an army of supervillains and other henchmen in a plot to take over the world. Along with battling regular generic fodder enemies, you get to face the Claw, a character who was depicted as a human who has been transformed into solid sound and who wears a sonic emitter on his right wrist as a prosthetic device. The Living Laser, whose body was transformed into photon form, making him an actual living laser. Whirlwind, a mutant who possesses the ability to rotate his body around lengthwise on its axis at great speeds. A Sentinel, a giant mutant hunting robot. The Wizard, a human of near superhuman levels of genius who became known as the Wizard by legally assuming the stage name and using advanced scientific inventions to perform feats of magic. The Grim Reaper, a supervillain who wields a techno scythe that could spin at rapid speeds, firing electromagnetic power blasts, and has the ability to absorb human life forms via the scythe. The Mandarin, a villain that wields 10 rings of immense power. The Unstoppable Juggernaut, which I believe was represented poorly here. Ultron, the ever-indestructible sentient life form. The Assassin Crossbones, and finally Captain America's arch nemesis himself, the Red Skull. Players can choose to play as one of 4 members of the Avengers team: Captain America, Iron Man, Hawkeye, and Vision. Each character can fight hand to hand, throw selected items when on the ground, and use a range of special attacks, either a projectile weapon such as Captain America's shield or Hawkeye's arrows, or an energy beam used by Iron Man or the Vision. Other Avengers that are strictly supporting characters include Wasp, Quicksilver, Wonder Man, and Namor the Submariner. Appear when special power-ups are collected, allowing those characters to temporarily assist the player's character. All in all, I thought the game was mediocre, but more fun to play if you had a partner. By all means, check this one out if you have a chance and are a true Avengers fan. Number 2, The Punisher is a 1993 beat-em-up arcade game developed and released by Capcom. It stars the Marvel Comics anti-hero, The Punisher, aka Frank Castle, who you can play as along with the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. himself, Agent Nick Fury. These two embark on a mission to kill the crime lord, the Kingpin, and bring down his criminal underworld. The plot of the game is explained in its intro. U.S. Marine Captain Frank Castle enjoys a picnic with his family in Central Park. The Castle family accidentally discovers a mob killing. Fearing any witnesses, the killers gun down the family. To avenge them and all others like them, Frank becomes the Punisher, the scourge of the criminal underworld. How Nick Fury fits into this all, I don't know. But I don't care, as the game is just simply too fun to play. Which brings me to the gameplay, that is chastised as just being another Final Fight clone, and I would say with good merit. The fighting moves and background settings seem as though they could fit into the Final Fight series, but this didn't stop me from enjoying the game. Although, if there was one gripe to be had, I do wish that Frank and Fury movesets were at least a little different. As far as gameplay is concerned, they are essentially the same character, with no distinguishable differences, which dulls down the desire to play as Fury. But believe me, the details is lost in the heat of battle when you are taking down hordes of bad guys. As to be expected, the game has comic book bad guys at the end of each stage, such as the half-man, half-tank Reaver known as Bonebreaker, Bruno Costa, a mob enforcer, Bushwhacker, a trained assassin who has the ability to reshape cybernetic arms into various ballistic and melee weapons, Jigsaw, a ruthless mob hitman that Punisher himself hideously disfigures, and lastly, at the end, the Kingpin of crime himself, Wilson Fisk. In short, I loved this game and never get tired of it. If you like Final Fight, then I guarantee you will like this clone as well. Number 3. XMen, the arcade game produced by Konami in 1992. In the game, players control one of 6 playable X-Men, either Cyclops, Colossus, Wolverine, Storm, Nightcrawler, or Dazzler, to defeat their arch enemy, the Master of Magnetism himself, Magneto. The game plot is simple. The X-Men must stop the villain Magneto from wreaking havoc on a human civilization. I liked this game when it came out, and guilty pleasure, still do. The graphics are great, and the overall game feel true to the cosmic source material. When you are playing the game, each X-Men looks definitively different, but sadly feels gameplay wise pretty much the same no matter which character you are playing, which was something I did not like. It would have been nice for each character to fight just a little bit differently, according to their own attributes. But hey, it was the 90s. Just to have a game of this caliber was a blessing. What was different and unique to each character though were their specific mutant powers, which could be used to defeat multiple enemies on the screen at once. The use of a mutant power is very effective, but also costly, since it causes a character to lose 3 health points. I hated these type of power-ups in games, since it defeated to me the purpose of using them. Why use a power that will cost you knowingly, life points just to defeat an enemy that might take some of your energy. Seemed self-defeating to me. Anyway, as always, at the end of every level was a boss fight that pertained to the comics. There was the unmovable Blob, Pyre, the fire technician, the savage Wendigo, Nimrod, who I believe looks more like Master Mode to me, you tell me, Hellfire Club's White Queen, I am not sure who the heck these guys are supposed to be, and the unstoppable Juggernaut. Why he needs a bazooka to handle the X-Men, I'm not sure. And finally aboard Asteroid M, the last Magneto himself. If you are an X-Men fan, then you owe it to yourself to play this game at least once. I'm sure you will enjoy it. Number 4. Batman. The 1990s arcade game based off of the 1989 movie of the same name that starred Michael Keaton as Batman and Jack Nicholson as the clown prince of crime himself, the Joker. Now, to be totally honest with you, I didn't even know this arcade cabinet existed until I researched material for this video. Nevertheless, play the game itself. But what I can tell you from the footage of the gameplay, it looks like a simple cash grab video game for fans of the movie to play. What I can tell you is the game is split, as it beat 'em up on some levels and a first-person shooter on others. As you not only walk through the slums of Gotham fighting thugs, but also both drive through the streets in the Batmobile, shooting at opposing cars and flying through the sky in the Batwing, firing on attacking helicopters. The graphics, I would say, has dated badly. The sound effects are horrible to listen to, and the way Batman moves himself seems very clunky. I'm glad I never played this game. If you want an early good Batman game to play, check out the video on my YouTube channel, Comics on the Pyre, under the title First Good Comic Book Video Game, and see for yourself what Batman video game I suggest you should play. Anyway, the one thing I can say positive about the game is that the levels seem to be true to the movie, as you will go through Axis chemical plant, the Flugenheim Museum, and eventually battle it out with the Joker himself at the top of Gotham City's cathedral, where at the end, Joker takes his big plunge, same as in the movie. I don't know. If I were you, viewer, even if I was a big Batman fan, I would probably avoid this game. It doesn't look fun or innovating, but hey, to each their own. And now, for the final arcade video game on this list, and I think it will surprise you, viewer, AVP, otherwise known as Alien vs. Predator, to the world at large. This beat 'em up is a 1994 video game developed and released by Capcom for the arcade. It is based on the science fiction franchise of the same name. In the game, players take control of up to 3 out of 4 cyborg and predator characters in a battle against the alien hordes and some rogue humans. But wait, I hear you saying. Predator and Aliens were 2 franchises that originated as movies, not comic books, and therefore cannot be included on this list. Well, wait a minute before you hoisted that red flag, and just hear me out. Yes, you are right by saying both these franchises started out as movies, but the title, AVP, a series depicting the 2 species as being in conflict with one another, originated as a crossover series as a comic in 1989, and therefore, due to a technicality, qualifies to be on this list. And I say we are all the better for it, as this game is just fantastic. Right from the bat, you get to pick as 4 playable characters, 2 cyborg soldiers, one by the name of Dutch Schaefer, and the other Lieutenant Lin Kurosawa. And in a direct juxtaposition to these characters, you get to play as 2 predators, which are classified as a hunter and a warrior. 3 of the 4 characters are equipped with a melee weapon, a katana for Lin, a bladed naginata staff for the hunter, and an extendable extractable spear staff for the warrior. Dutch has no such weapon, but can hit enemies with his cybernetic arm. In addition, he can hold and swing any melee weapon dropped by another character, instead of throwing it as the other player characters do. Each character is also equipped with a projectile weapon for ranged attacks. Lynn uses a rapid-firing handgun. Dutch has a smart gun and his cybernetic arm, and the Predators use shoulder-mounted energy weapons. The plot, if you needed one, is that California has been overrun by the aliens, and the cybernetically enhanced Major Dutch Schaefer and his lieutenant Lynn Karasawa of the United States Colonial Marine Corps has been abandoned by their superiors and are cornered by a swarm of alien drones. Before they can be killed, a pair of predators appear and destroy the aliens. The predators offer an alliance with the two cyborgs in order to stop the alien infestation. And so their adventure begins. Everything, and I mean everything about this game, is top notch. The graphics are beautiful, the controls tight, the stages match the movies, and while playing, you get a sense of an alien horde overrunning you, which will keep you on your trigger and your character on their heels. By all means, if you are just a little bit fan of the franchise and love video games, then give this old arcade cabinet a try. I'm sure you won't be disappointed. Well, that's it for this episode. If you like what you see, then visit my comic book YouTube channel, Comic on the Pyre, for other videos like this one. Tap on that bell icon before you go. And oh yes, as always, until next time, keep reading, my friends.